Welcome to r/Reddit Revenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. During a Disney college program, a troublesome roommate's irresponsible behavior and disregard for rules almost led to his deportation. The second story. A-Hat tripped me, boss ignored it. I reported to corporate HR. A-Hat vanished, and boss faced demotion. The third story. After being rudely cut off and subjected to a painfully slow drive, OP takes sweet revenge by sending the jerk on an extended traffic-filled detour to LAX. Today's first story is, I almost got my former roommate deported. Back in 2014, I, 19 male, got accepted into the Disney college program. I was assigned 3 other roommates and worked there for 8 months per the original offer or contract or whatever. One of the apartments we were put in was designated as a non-alcohol building. We would have random inspections with a 24-hour notice. It didn't matter how old you were. If alcohol was caught in your apartment, all of your roommates, including you, could get kicked out of the program and sent home within 2 days. Another one of the rules was we could not make spare keys for safety reasons. It was a great time, and I loved working there until we got a 5th roommate. We were aware that this could happen during our time at the college program, so we dealt with it. Our 5th roommate was a guy from Italy. Let's call him Gabe. I believe he was 19 to 21 years old. I want to start off by saying that I was welcoming to a new roommate. I was making a lot of friends from different countries while working at Disney, and I thought this was a great opportunity to make another international friend. I'll admit that I thought Gabe was cute, an average height himbo with black hair and that Italian stash. Alas, he was real popular among the female cast members. Being a young Italian guy in Orlando will get you pretty much anybody. Very quickly, I learned that Gabe was not a decent guy. I knew this because I was invited to the club where he ditched me, and I never saw him again that night. He would always say that he's from Venice, Italy, but in reality, he lived in one of the towns outside of it. From then on, I didn't want to hang out with him, and I was happy to leave it at that. A few weeks goes by, and I'm starting to get really annoyed with Gabe. Multiple times, I would hear him and whatever girl of the week he's having sex with in the living room on the singular couch that we all shared. It was very thin walls, and I could hear everything from my bed. He would bring cans of beer to the apartment and just leave them there for days. We managed to throw away the cans before inspection time, but it was the last thing he did that set me on this petty revenge path. One day I was at our apartment, relaxing and playing video games like I normally would. The front door opens and I pause the game to see who's coming in. When I realize that it's a random girl and not any of my male roommates, I start yelling, "Who the hell are you?" She was just as surprised as me to see that someone was in the apartment. She gets flustered and says that Gabe sent her there to grab his phone charger. I notice that she's also one of the foreign cast members like Gabe, because her English wasn't fluent. I told her Gabe didn't tell any of us that she was coming to the apartment. I text Gabe and tell the girl to go ahead and grab the charger, but give me the spare key she was given. She walks out and Gabe eventually replies and confirms her story. At this point, I'm furious because any of these girls could have walked into the apartment and stolen something, and we would never know who it was. So I text my original roommates, let them know what he's done and what I'm about to do. I remember that Gabe left a can of alcohol in the fridge, and I take a picture of it. Perfect. I take the spare key up to the security gate to let them know what had happened, and show them the text saying it's a spare. At this time, I didn't know that he could possibly be deported because this would interfere with his work visa. I didn't care. I just wanted him out of the apartment. A day passes by and I see Gabe back at the apartment. He doesn't say anything. He just grabs a few clothes and leaves again. The day after that, I get a call from the college program counselors, asking me to come and formally tell them about Gabe. I didn't go into specifics about the girls he slept with and other behaviors. I just gave them the straight facts and evidence. It turned out that was enough. Per the rules of the program, Gabe had 2 days to get his stuff together and vacate the premises. I remember coming home from the work on his last day. He was busy packing things and had help from some girl he was with. It was not the same one he had given the spare key to. When he noticed me in the room, he stared daggers at me and only talked to the girl in a different language. I don't know whether it was Italian or Spanish. I go into my room and stay there until they leave. I was worried he would take the opportunity to beat me up and leave without a trace. I felt bad that he would have to pack up and leave the country in such a quick time. On the other hand, I would be rid of a roommate that could have ended all my roommates' program early. About a week later, I find out that he's living it up in Miami and was not deported after all. 2 weeks after that, we got another roommate from Brazil. He turned out to be pretty chill until the end of my time with the program. So that's how I almost got my former roommate deported. Oh, this story has it all. Intrigue, revenge, and even an Italian hero, Gabe. His habit of leaving cans of beer in his apartment and inviting random girls to stay overnight made him completely unacceptable. Your plan to study the dirt and hand over the spare key to the security service was brilliant. The inference that he left a bottle of alcohol in the fridge was a masterpiece of meanness. But the next moment when he came back and saw you and then spoke to the girl in another language was a real training for him. Instead of an enchanting ending, you had Gabe's epic exit from the apartment. Indeed, throwing a party in a non-confidential house and saying arrivederci is a real art. You saved yourself and your roommates from being kicked out of the program and made life more enjoyable for everyone. And finally, you could enjoy some peace of mind again. The next story is, try to trip me? Enjoy your fall. I have a jacked up ankle, but it's not readily noticeable. One time an A-hat prankster, 40-ish male, tried to trip me, 23 female. I stumbled into a nearby desk. I turned around and kicked him in the shin. A-hat got peeved because I wasn't gentle at all. He started yelling at me. When the boss came to see what happened, he of course left out how he instigated. Told the boss that I just kicked him for no reason. Having grown up as a middle child, I learned that quietly telling my side when the other person is yelling seems to win every time. So I explained how I was walking by. A-hat lashed out at my bad ankle purposely. I fell into the desk and must have clipped him as I went down. I even offered to apologize if the boss thought it necessary. The boss was peeved. He hauled A-hat into his office and yelled at him for about 10 minutes. Now I could have let it go at that, but my ankle was throbbing and a bruise was forming on my hip. I'm not graceful, but it takes a lot to bruise me. So after A-hat left, I went in and told my boss about the injuries. I also added all the other stupid, ignorable, is that a word, pranks and how I felt targeted. Turns out I wasn't the only person he tried to trip, just the only one to take any further. The boss tried to defuse the situation by claiming it wasn't just a me thing, but an office-wide thing. At this point I'm livid, so I get the boss to reiterate about how this guy is a repeat offender. After pointing out that the boss is allowing a hostile work environment, I ask if anything is going to be done. Boss said there was nothing that needed to be done. Boss still isn't getting it. Turns out he was just peeved that the guy was yelling and creating a scene. So I told him I expected my work environment to be professional and free of bodily attacks. If this didn't happen, I was gonna take this higher. Then I left. Boss must have blew me off because A-hat tripped someone a week later. The person was unharmed and didn't do more than stumble. At that point, I started having my phone ready to record. I ended up catching A-hat trip 3 more people over the course of a month. Then I wrote up my incident, my boss's acknowledgement, my concerns, the lack of protection, and finally how A-hat kept doing it. I attached the videos and sent it to our corporate HR. A-hat disappeared shortly after that. I assume he was fired or quit. We all had to have harassment briefings. My boss was demoted and transferred to another office. I heard he ended up leaving. He ruined his own career. All I did was report the issue to HR. Edit. I saw him uncross his legs, then stick his foot out, so I tried to move. I guess I thought he was just trying to stand up after leaning against the desk. It's not like I was trying to walk close to him. That's how he got my ankle. He actually tried to adjust to my dodge. I would tell my boss that I need medical attention, and he can expect a call from the hospital because of the injury at work. Also, when they ask me how I got injured, I would tell them an employee intentionally caused me to trip, so you might also get a visit from the police. After a few thousands in medical expenses, and after the doctor clears me to work again, I'll go back to work. And in fact, I believe that I should not use personal leave because of this injury that was intentionally caused by another employee. For someone who worked in a hostile work environment, I absolutely love how you handled it. However, your former boss should not have a position of power. He sounds like a weak leader. I'm really glad you don't have to work with those two anymore. Your determination and stubbornness in fighting for your rights has resulted in a better work environment for everyone. Well done. The third story is, Jerk cuts me off and then drives very slowly. Jerk later falls into my clutches. So, some background info. I live in Los Angeles, a city that is bisected by a small mountain range. I live on the south side of these mountains, the basin, and work on the north side, the valley. For me, the only way to cross these mountains is to drive over one of several narrow, winding canyon roads. Also, I'm lucky to have a sort of reverse commute, meaning that traffic is heavy in the direction that I'm not traveling, both in the morning and in the evening. This leaves me free to drive quickly. I mean, a few miles per hour over the speed limit, nothing crazy. So I'm heading home one Friday evening, not in a rush when a minivan turns in front of me, cutting me off and forcing me to slow down. There was no one behind me. He could have just waited a few seconds and gotten behind me, but he chose to cut me off. So I decelerate to accommodate this guy and leave a safe following distance. I'm really not in a hurry, and I'm opposed to tailgating, unnecessary horn honking, and other D means of communication often employed by fellow Angelinos. But this guy is going 10 miles per hour in a 35 zone, and there's no possible way a sane person could pass on that road. With his Nevada plates, he's unlikely to be turning into one of the driveways along the road. I'm stuck. Slowly, painfully, we creep and crawl and approach the summit of the hills. There's a long line of annoyed drivers behind me, but I keep my cool, taking deep breaths, thinking positive thoughts, and singing along to ABBA. I do really want to get out from behind this person, though, and an option is approaching. At the top of the hill, one can either take a left to go on to Mulholland, or continue forward to descend the hill on Coldwater, the road I came up on. My desired route is to take a left, because it plops me down in the basin closer to my house. Forward is an option, but it takes a little longer. I decide I'm going to take whatever direction this jerk isn't going. I won't be trapped by you, Mr. Nevada Plates. I have options. So he signals a left turn and goes into the left turn lane. I continue forward to avoid him. At the last second, he changes his mind and drifts back in front of me. Because I wasn't tailgating, he has room to do this, and it's too late for me to turn left. So now I have to follow him all the way down to Sunset Boulevard, then deal with LA traffic all the way back to my house to boot. I am peeved. I'm wishing I had some sort of missile capability on my car, hoping Mothra will appear out of nowhere and trash his minivan. Anything. I can feel my blood just starting to boil, and there is nothing I can do about it. D. I do want to stress that even at this point I wasn't tailgating, not honking, not flipping him off. I left him a whole 2 car lengths following distance for safety. I was angry, not murderous. So I continue to eat SH all the way down Coldwater to Sunset, when I'm finally able to pass him and go on my merry way. I wanted to give him the finger at least, but I didn't. I stopped at my local Starbucks to take a break and grab an iced Americano. On my way out, who pulls up to me? Mr. effing Nevada Plates in the flesh. I recognize his van, because I just got through studying the effing thing for the last 25 minutes. He asked me if I knew the fastest way to LAX because he was really in a hurry. In a hurry, are we? I can help you with that. I put on a pleasant smile and I say, sure, I can help. The best way to get to LAX at this hour is to take a left here onto Santa Monica Boulevard. Here, take that all the way to the 101 South, then take the 10 East to the 405 South. It's actually a lot faster than taking Sunset to the 405, trust me. He smiles and says thank you, and I watched him make that rather difficult left onto Santa Monica Boulevard and enjoyed my iced Americano. I hope you really enjoyed your beautiful view of downtown Los Angeles at effing rush hour, jerk. The ending turned out to be perfect and well-deserved. Bravo! I don't have much sympathy for those who drive significantly below the speed limit for extended periods of time. If you're lost, it's best to pull over and determine your route safely. And if you're not in a hurry, it's still important to at least maintain the speed limit, as going 10 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone can be hazardous. This is truly awesome. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.